How's everyone going? All right, welcome to the collecting track. So this is a very special collecting track. Maybe some of you saw the official episode 9 thing, but this is the first time the holiday special has ever had its own panel at a celebration. So you are in the right place. Now, we here at the Collecting Track got a lot of things going on. Immediately after this, if you have more questions, and you will have more questions, a couple doors down, there's going to be a Q&A in the social room. Okay, so just go out the doors and go to the left. That's also where you can find information about the scavenger hunt, if you're curious about that. As you may or may not know, you will be receiving a Star Tot for watching this event. Of course, watching it is its own prize, but still, we give you a Star Tot. In order to get one, you have to have a badge, and you have to show it to the nice volunteers at either door at the end. You can't leave halfway through, but you won't want to. Akmina told me. So, one other thing, if you do have to go to the bathroom, don't use that door because it just confuses everybody. Use the front door. Tomorrow there'll be a swap meet. If you're interested in interesting collectibles, that'll be right next door as well. And also, if you saw this and you couldn't catch everything and you ran out of pencil in your notebook, all of these track panel presentations will be on YouTube. So if you look up Collecting Track on YouTube, you will see those come up within the next couple weeks. So without further ado, after the, episode 9, but holiday special. All right, can everyone say holiday special? Holiday special!
Woo! All right, everybody. Welcome to the sneak preview Mandalorian panel. Now, I wish I could tell you that, but unfortunately, this really is about the holiday special. So those of you wishing to exit can go out that door. Those of you that are here to stay, we've got some special things to show you. So to speak. So I'm Scott Kirkwood. I run the fan website StarWarsHolidaySpecial.com, which has been running since 2003. And I put together this panel of other what we like to call holiday specialists. Over here, this is Scott Horn, who's got probably the best and most presentable holiday special collection that I've ever seen. Quite nice, and we'll show you pictures of that. Gus Lopez, of course, needs very little introduction, and he's got some nice items in his collection as well. And then we've got Pete Vilmer here, who has championed the holiday special for quite some time, and has been involved in some of the things that we'll see in the slides here. So, thanks, everybody. So we'll get right into the merchandise. So we're defining merchandise as stuff that you can actually or could actually purchase at some point. The very first item, really, that I'm going to show here is this is the Jefferson Starship single, and it's officially a Star Wars Holiday Special piece of merchandise because the single itself says, as seen and heard on the CBS TV Star Wars Holiday Special. There's various versions of it. There's a couple of 12-inch versions. There's promo versions. There's a jukebox version. There's a foreign version with a picture of the band on the cover. So, that's something to collect there. Now we've got, this was also a very early one. This might have been the first glimpse a lot of people got of the holiday special without even knowing it. The red snaggletooth, which was descended from the blue snaggletooth. That's actually a picture from the holiday special on that Kenner card, and it's been that way since that card came out. There's a bit of a story involved in how the snaggletooth wound up finally being in that form, and how it wound up with a holiday special picture on the card. Maybe we'll tell you more about that if we get time, but in any case, basically anything with that red snaggletooth with that belt buckle, I would say counts as a holiday special collectible. So you'll see a number of those things in this presentation. This is the Boba Fett mail-away offer, which many of you are, of course, familiar with. The flyer that was included with this mentions the holiday special. For some odd reason, it calls it a Wookiee holiday, and I don't know exactly where they got that from. A lot of people thought that's what it was called for some time after that, but I've never seen that. I don't think. Pete, have you ever seen that?
I think it's the working title.
Working title? Okay.
We just didn't have the final yet.
Yeah, so it could be a working title, but that's the only place I've ever seen it officially show up, so it's kind of interesting. But the Mail Away Boba Fett was kind of, at the time it came out, it was between Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back, and the only thing otherwise that had shown at that point was the Star Wars Holiday Special, which was really the first official kind of sequel on screen to Star Wars. And so, everyone knows the story. You collect the proofs of purchase, you mail it away, and the Boba Fett is kind of based on the cartoon version, and kind of a little bit, I think, based on the actual final suit as well. But none of us really knew, what he was going to look like at that point. So it was kind of a really cool thing to see that. And there's a name on that box that some of you might know. This is from 1979. This is the Wookiee Storybook. It tells a story that's very similar to the holiday special. If you've seen it, it's got Chewbacca's family in it. It's definitely, obviously based off of elements introduced in the holiday special. I think it's one of the coolest, best tie-ins that there is to the holiday special. So that was another piece of early merchandise. But as we all know, the holiday special was not the brightest star in the Star Wars galaxy. And so there were, things that were planned for it that didn't happen, and not a whole lot of merchandise actually came out. So we actually wind up with a big gap. 1979 to 1993, there was pretty much just about nothing.
There were a handful of very obscure references. The 10-year anniversary poster that was put out by Bantha Tracks.
Yep.
Does have it on the time. It's a big timeline poster, but and a couple of people wrote articles mostly belittling the special, but that was it.
Yeah, very, very little between that time period, and no real merchandise that I know of. Until finally, 1993, Topps came out with the Galaxy Series trading cards, and these were, art cards, and they included some production art and a cartoon image from the Star Wars Holiday Special. So that was a really cool thing for those of us who were true believers at that time, because even back in the early 90s, almost nobody really remembered it or wanted to admit to having seen it. So it was cool to have this actual evidence of it. Here's a couple other really cool items that were produced by Lucasfilm. They were called Cira cells. They were made to look like actual animation cells. They were sort of reproductions of actual animation cells, but you could buy them through the fan club, and they had a couple of cool designs. So when I saw that come out, that was exciting as well. Jumping up to 2001. We had a first really accurate looking Star Wars Holiday Special figure, and this is basically a remake of Snaggletooth. Now, Snaggletooth has been known by multiple names. This version of Snaggletooth from Holiday Special gets called Snaggletooth. It also gets called Zutton in a lot of places, but in the actual Holiday Special and in the script, he's actually called Zutmore. That's how his name is shown. So. And if you listen closely to it, when Ackmena talks to him, she calls him Zutmore. So somehow Zutton got in there in some weird way, but Zutmore is the actual name from the script. 2001, again, we had some more cards. There's a number of things that came out where holiday special images were used for Cantina characters, and you might not know if you weren't really looking closely, but another series of Topps trading cards, evolution cards, that showed on at least one side of the card had pictures from the holiday special. So that, if you're collecting holiday special stuff, that's kind of in there as well. Decipher had a Jedi Knights trading card game. This is sort of I think a CGI version of Zutmore, but they call him Zutton here again. And there's one card with his image on it. So again, if you're collecting cards, that's definitely holiday special related. 2005, we start getting into some more kind of figure representations, and this is a Kubrick version of Snaggletooth. And again, there was a blue variant of this as well that's in more limited quantities, but you'll sort of see a trend here. Most things after this point that start coming out are either Red Snaggletooth related or cartoon Boba Fett related. Those seem to be the two things that are kind of evergreens with holiday special material. We had in 2006 there was a Bust Ups mini bust from Gentle Giant, obviously wearing the holiday special ski outfit that Snaggletooth wears there. So that's another good one, and also had a blue variant. So we come up to 2007, and all of a sudden there's kind of an explosion of holiday special related material. I'm not sure exactly why, but maybe because we were coming up on the 30th anniversary the next year, but maybe running out of ideas for other material. I'm not sure, but things really started happening in 2007. Previous Celebration, Celebration 4, this was maybe an accidental item, I'm not sure, but there was a Celebration 4 luggage tag, and that picture is very definitely from the Star Wars Holiday Special. And if you look closely on this one, it's kind of cool. The Ponda Baba that's in the background there is shown without his mask on, and you can't really tell unless you really look, but he's kind of covering his face, but you can see his actual face on there. And then we had, with the 30th anniversary Star Wars cards that Topps produced, they also sprinkled in some holiday special material. This was a really cool set. There's, in addition to cartoon cards and some images of the actors and so forth, there were a couple of animation cell cards that were transparent, and you could flip them over and see them from either side. Those were a really cool design. That's definitely something you want to look for if you're looking to collect holiday special material. This is the first figure that came out that actually admitted to being from the holiday special, and had a picture from it on the back. So finally, we got our first animated Boba Fett figure that was very obviously from the holiday special. The gun is from the holiday special. The forked weapon is also from the holiday special. And there were two versions of this, a gold version and a silver version. The gold was the more rare chase variant.
There's been an animated version for droids. There has been an animated version of Boba Fett, but the paint scheme is actually different between the droid series and the holiday special. And when they released the figure in the mid-'80s for droids line, they just used the regular Boba Fett action figure, the movie likeness action figure. So it really is, I think, it's the first also cartoon painted Boba Fett also.
Right, yeah, with that paint scheme. That's a mistake that people sometimes make too. There's been some merchandise produced that's sort of animated Boba Fett, but it is actually the droids Boba Fett. And so I'm not including those in the presentation because it's kind of borderline, but some of us wind up collecting that version as well because it's very closely tied in.
And that goes with the armor and helmet difference. There are subtle variations to it that differentiate it.
Yep. And of course, Nelvana, the animation company, did both the holiday special and the later Droids series, so it's very much tied in. 2007, the Star Wars Vault came out, and this one really just blew me away because Not only did it include a reproduction of a couple of script pages from the holiday special, but also there was a couple of audio CDs included, and one of those CDs includes a recording of Carrie Fisher singing the Life Day song, and Pete was, I think, instrumental in having that happen.
You're welcome. Well, the whole reason there was
He's not going to sing it for you.
Not today. The whole reason there's so much holiday special in that book is actually because both Steve and I are big holiday special fans. You get us together, we co-author a book, you bet there's going to be some holiday special in it. We were very surprised that we were actually allowed to get that Carrie Fisher recording in there. I couldn't believe that happened. And actually, I wanted to note on some of those previous Topps cards where you had holiday special imagery, that was likely Steve Sansweet's doing.
So we could thank
he
Steve
was
for
one
that.
of the consultants on that line, and being a big holiday special fan, I'm sure he had a lot to do with that.
Steve, I understand Steve has a fairly decent collection as well of holiday special material.
Yes, he has.
So that's definitely, I mean, not just for holiday special stuff, but that's a fantastic and amazing book. And if you don't own that book, you really should. It's incredible. It's got just incredible amount of great stuff in there. Another 2007 item, we have the diminutive Galactic Heroes line, and of course we've got a holiday special Snaggletooth there. We've got the first bobblehead animated Boba Fett, also from 2007, limited edition through Entertainment Earth exclusives. So a Funko item there. Acme Animation did this, what they call a character key with Boba Fett, and obviously fully Star Wars Holiday Special related, and even has the Star Wars Holiday Special logo on it with a certificate of authenticity. So it's the real deal. This was great. So that year also, StarWars.com did a sort of promotion where with every order you would get one free Star Wars Holiday Special trading card with an image from the Star Wars Holiday Special cartoon. So, you know, of course, you can imagine it's difficult to put together a full set of those, but it's just awesome that, you know, we had 11 cards in there and all Holiday Special stuff. So it's seems to be kind of gearing up to the 30th anniversary.
I actually just wanted to say that says near and dear to me. I actually worked at .com in 2008, and
Yes.
following, we had a whole week of coverage. I don't know how we got permission from Lucasfilm to actually do a full week of coverage. With Scott's help, he had definitely some contributions to that series. But Star Wars Shop was going to do this promotion, and they basically looked to me. It's like, look, we want to do some holiday special stuff. What do you say? I said, well, give me some access to the image archives so I can go through the animation styles, because they weren't going to let us do the live action stuff. But the animation, they said, okay. So I got to go through and pick the imagery, and I actually reached out to the two Star Wars Shop proprietors last week to ask, why did you guys mix up the numbers in terms of there's different print counts? And they said that was strictly to drive collectibility. There was nothing else.
Of course, it's Boba Fett that's the hardest one to get.
You got any extra sets? I'm missing some.
I wish I did. I got one set.
So yeah, that's a fantastic one, and I actually threw in the animated GIF that was on the site at the time, showing the exclusive. So then we get to the Kubrick Boba Fett. We already had the Kubrick Snaggletooth, and this one there were two different versions of it. We had a carded Boba Fett on a really cool card with a custom sort of animated background there. And then there was a boxed version of it. And as I recall, the carded one was only available in the 6-figure box set. You had to buy the whole set to get the one on card. And then the boxed one you could buy on its own. But that's definitely a very cool one and very unabashedly holiday special there. Here's another, I think, probably accidental throw in. This is a Ponda Baba card, but it's got the image from the holiday special. And there's a really neat set of cards with different colors of foil that you could get in different varying quantities. And that's from 2012. Celebration again in Celebration 6 in 2012, there was this limited edition poster by David Rabbit, or Rabbit, I'm not sure how he pronounces his name, but limited 250 copies, but it's his take on the holiday special cartoon, what a movie poster for that would look like. And so it's got in those strange letters down at the bottom that aren't Aurebesh, it's those actually say faithful Wookiee, or are meant to say that. Oddly enough, Boba Fett is sitting astride a walking lizard rather than the large floating dinosaur that he rides. And I think that was just a stylistic change that the artist made. But I love this poster. This is a fantastic tribute to the holiday special cartoon here. Gentle Giant, of course, has been doing jumbo versions of the action figures, and they, wound up doing a version of Snaggletooth, complete with a huge picture from the holiday special on the background, just like the original had. So that's a really cool item as well. When this came out in 2014, this really blew a lot of people away. Just a really, really cool, amazing statue. Fully 3D version of the animated Boba Fett. And came in this, it had the standard box that, Gentle Giant stuff was coming in, but then it had this awesome slipcover featuring images from the holiday special cartoon. And it was just like over the top awesome. I think this is one of the coolest things that is related to the holiday special that was produced. Same year, Vinylmation did what do they call these? I guess just their Vinylmation. They're sort of distorted version of cartoon Boba Fett here, and this was a Disney Store exclusive. In the Disney parks, you could get a pin, a Greedo pin, but the Greedo is actually from the Star Wars Holiday Special. You can tell by the sort of the orange vest that he has, it's very specific to the holiday special. That was another Disney Parks exclusive. Celebration 7, another poster came out for the holiday special, and this featured the scene where they're actually out on the Pana liquid surface, and sort of a pivotal scene here. And again, this was limited to 250 copies. You could get it autographed by the artist and even get a custom drawing in that little box by the artist. So that's definitely a great one. 2016, more recently, the Red Snaggletooth in the Funko Pops. And again, there's a blue version out there, more limited run. Hallmark did the Itty Bitties, which you were able to first pick up at Celebration Orlando in 2017. Blue version again was available, and there's also this little button showing here. There's kind of their promotional button for this, and it's kind of a neat thing to pick up. We'll get into some more promotional items in this presentation as well. 2017, 2 years ago now. The Dorbs series, cute little round-headed figurines, included the Red Snaggletooth with his distinctive belt buckle. And that, again, was a Disney exclusive for D32 2017. Hot Toys had another bobblehead. This one, part of their Cos Baby series. And this one came out originally in 2018 and is just amazing. This is a Hot Toys 1/6 scale cartoon animation Boba Fett. This was originally a New York Comic Con 2017 exclusive, but later on they made it available afterwards for people to order, and it's amazing. It's got so many accessories and is such a cool thing. Gentle Giant also in 2018 did a animated Boba Fett mini bust, and you can see the Star Wars Holiday Special logo just prominently displayed on there. It's almost like it's getting a little bit more acceptable all the time. At least the cartoon part. But this also a very amazing sculpt. I think that the quality of the merchandise around the holiday special has been becoming more high-end and more refined, which is great to see. There was a gift edition that was limited to 300. I think it has a slightly different box. And then the Premier Guild holiday exclusive edition, the one that you see here, was limited to 550. So you kind of got to get in on those things early to be able to get them. And then we come up to the present. Celebration 2019 Holiday Special Animated Lunchbox. We don't actually have one with us here. I haven't got mine yet. It's in the car. But that's really awesome. Pete, were you involved in that one as well?
I just want to say, I need to take credit for this one because in 2008, for the 30th anniversary, I pitched this as an exclusive for Star Wars Shop, and it got denied. I said, this is definitely a killer. You got to get this one.
Revenge of the Star Wars Holiday Special in
And so
2019.
all these years later, they finally make it, and did they say thank you? It's okay. Thank you.
No, there's one back there.
Yeah.
All right, there we go.
All right.
Awesome. Okay, I want to get into the promotional items. These are items that basically you couldn't just buy. They were given out, as promos, or given out for free, or available to the press or whatever. It's something you'd have to track down later, and you couldn't just go out and purchase somewhere. First of all, and I think most importantly, the Star Wars Holiday Special press kit. This came out around the time of the Holiday Special, and was packed full of goodies. It had a poster, Mylar poster, which you can see there, silver Mylar. It's small. It's an 8.5 by 11 poster, but it was slid into this little folder, and within the folder there was 4 photos from the Holiday Special, black and white photos, kind of like lobby card photos, and then some press info sheets. And it's a very very tough item to track down, but very, very worth it if you can get a hold of one.
I just want to say, actually, in my entire collecting experience, my getting that press kit was probably one of the best, because I found one on eBay for $15. That was like 20 years ago, and
Amazing.
no other bidders, and I got it for $15. One of the best
that's
deals I've ever
incredible.
gotten.
You probably won't find it for that now. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's got a poster in it, and if it's complete with the poster, you're competing with not only Holiday Special collectors and other Star Wars collectors, but you're also competing with poster collectors who are notoriously insane.
And I believe, because this is how I got mine, the Mylar poster also came included in the 78 summer Star Wars press kit.
That is correct.
And
yeah.
that's how I don't have the whole full kit, but I was able to track down at least the poster with the summer 78 standard Star Wars press release.
And that's a double-sided poster too, by the way. It's got more text on the back.
And the picture doesn't do it justice. It's absolutely beautiful.
It's very difficult to photograph. There was also a series of 4 8x10 color photos that were on sort of cardstock paper, distributed in relation to the Holiday Special. These are the 4 here. There's been 1 or 2 that have been tossed in with that, as far as I know, are not actually related to it. There's a Star Destroyer image, and I think there's another space image that might get thrown in there. But as far as I know, it was just these 4 promotional, kind of like lobby cards.
I do want to say on that set, as an entry-level item from the vintage era, that is a good one to get because they're still relatively affordable. You can still find the
Yep.
full sets for $20-25.
I think that was one of the first like actual items from the holiday special that I picked up. There is also these were given out to the press, to newspapers, and so forth. There's a set of 20 press photos, black and white press photos, that have a kind of a wraparound info sheet from CBS, and they feature the main characters, the main cast, and so forth. It's a really cool set of photos, but they're really tough to track down because you don't generally see them together. You'll see one or two, or you might see a set of a few of them, but I don't think I've ever seen anyone selling like the entire set at once.
I've got 19. I'm looking for Lumpy. If anybody's got Lumpy, I need it.
I might have one for you.
Really? We'll talk.
So the Star Wars Holiday Special aired different places actually all over the world, and it also aired in Canada. I just found out recently it actually aired with about an hour offset. If you lived in Seattle and could pick up the Canadian broadcast, you could watch it, and then you could go and watch part of it again. And I talked to someone who did recently, and that was pretty cool to find out. But they had their own promotional push for it, and this is a black and white promotional image from the CTV network in Canada. This was a previous collecting track promo. Again, not something you could buy, but something that you could get if you were there.
Yeah, we've done giveaways since Celebration 3 actually, and yeah, in 2012 we decided to do a series of cereal boxes where they were parodies of existing cereals. So Shreddy cereal, if you're familiar with it, we did Fetties using the likeness from the holiday special, which is actually of the whole set. This is probably my favorite box. I love of course the holiday special Boba Fett, and for cereal collectors, actually the Shreddies boxes are some of the most sought after cereal boxes.
I got to ask: is this also in the series of these boxes? Is this Boba Fett holiday special version the most sought after one?
It is one of the top ones. We also did Admiral Akbar cereal from
Right.
Robot Chicken. So we did that. That was pretty popular too. So those are, I think, the top two.
Another sort of swag thing from Celebration. This was from last Celebration at the 501st Legion Bash. You could get these items if you attended the 501st party, and there's a nice cup with. We assume it's the red snaggletooth because the cup is red, and then a badge with snaggletooth on it as well. So those are kind of neat items that they were giving out. Now we'll get into production items. These are items that are actually related to the production of the holiday special itself, and they're starting to get a little bit more high end here. This is an example of the holiday special script. This one, the one with the cover here, belonged to Ken Welch, and was used on set. Ken and Mitzi Welch actually did musical production numbers for the holiday special. So this was one of theirs. And then the one next to it here, the pages you see, this is what the script actually looks like inside. It's different color pages for different revisions. This one happens to be the cue cards one that I assume was used to produce cue cards for the actors to see and read off of. Here we've got costumes. For many, many years, there was almost nothing available from the production like this, and in more recent years, some things like this have started to turn up, and these are costumes that have wound up in private collections here. So we've got the four-armed chef. In the middle, we've got the Harvey Korman character, the Dromboid, and then we've got Sondan's coat there. So really, really neat and amazing one-of-a-kind items.
I think it was actually about 5 years ago. It was on a prop collecting forum that the owner of those three plus maybe three more, so he had about half a dozen original holiday special costumes that he just unveiled on a collecting forum, and it absolutely just It sent a seismic rattle through the collecting community. We had no idea that those even survived.
Yep, I saw that, and I was I knew it was going to happen, and so I was there to kind of see the reveal, and it was pretty cool to see the surprise and amazement on people's faces, because it just, nothing has really turned up for it. It's a one-off television show. It's sort of been buried, and you know, in all the years, it just, looking on eBay, stuff doesn't turn up like this. It just doesn't. So here's some various items. Some are in private collections, some are actually still in the Lucasfilm archives. Lucasfilm does have a few things from the holiday special left over there in the archives. Pete, you can probably speak to that.
Sorry, let me do it this way. Let's see, 3 items there are still in the Lucasfilm archives. The carved X-Wing, of which there were 2 versions, the radio, the yellow radio, and the Dawn Post Chewbacca head, which they used many of for the final ceremony where they're wearing the red robes. I actually uncovered some paperwork from 1979 regarding Mala, who's there on the left. She, for some reason, was left in London, and they expected to get her back, but apparently she never made the trip home because it landed in somebody's personal collection, and so there she is. I did want to note on the X-Wing, I recently discovered that that is actually not a carved piece of wood. They actually used the Estes model rocket as the base for that, with the balsa wood wings and parts. The other version is a more finished version, and you can totally tell it's that. So the Estes model rocket is a holiday special collectible.
We've also got, there's the silver mask that you see there pops up in various places in the holiday special, and some of those have shown up as well. And then the Cantina head you see there was actually restored by Tom Spina. If you get a chance, definitely check out his panels. They're amazing. But he talks about that, and Gus may have some things to say
all
on
of the
that one.
Cantina band masks actually are in private collections at this point. Fortunately, they've all survived. And what's unusual for masks of that era is that a lot of the latex masks don't actually survive quite well. Like for example, a lot of the Yodas from Empire Strikes Back didn't really last. But the Cantina band masks are mostly in really good state and look beautiful. They look like, they just filmed it yesterday. So the restoration on it was actually pretty minimal. But they did do some alterations to this particular one, I believe, after the holiday special, where they darkened it a little bit and changed the lenses on this particular mask, is the one I own. The welding mask, or the mask you see in Lumpy's bedroom, there's
Right.
like 3 different versions of it, I believe, and they're all slightly different. You can sort of match it on screen, like the physical mask, to which one it is, based on like the patterns in the smile or in the mouth area. Sometimes I have one of these, and I've displayed it with original hat caps and masks and helmets from Star Wars. So it's interesting when you show like the Stormtrooper helmet, Luke X-Wing helmet, and this welding helmet, and people go, "What is that thing?" They come over and say, "What is that thing?" I'm like, "Well, that's from Lumpy's bedroom. Of course, you remember that."
A Stormtrooper kicks it. You've seen it.
And they're like, "Okay, yeah." No one remembers it because very few people actually have seen the holiday special recently and remember that scene. But I love it. It's an awesome piece.
There's also a scene in Sondan's shop where the camera kind of pans back, and you'll see 3 of them lined up on the wall. They're hanging on the wall there, and it might be those 3. I don't know, but it's pretty cool.
In both scenes, I would think.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, they reused that whole set. Sondan's shop is also the cantina, and is also, I think, one other set as well. Forget off the top of my head which one, but if you look closely, you can tell it's the same set redressed to save money. Moving on from there, animation artwork is another thing that you can collect. These are, they might be a little hard to track down, but there's a lot of them out there. Even if they only tend to come up for particular scenes. But there's kind of 2 classes of these. There's the hand-drawn, animation cells like you see on the right here. They usually don't have an original background. The backgrounds were sort of one of a kind, and they were used. Multiple cells were placed on top of them, and they were hand painted as well. So the one on the left is an original hand painted background. So those there's a lot fewer of, but the cells, there's so many of the cells that were done that they do pop up from time to time. And I think there's a lot of those still in the Lucasfilm archives as well.
Yeah, actually, I was surprised to find that there are actually quite a few. I thought they'd all been lost to history, but 10 or so years ago, I found boxes of them. I wish I could have taken one home, but at the very least, we know that they exist, which is awesome.
Maybe they can be documented someday.
And you'll occasionally find the Blue Line masters that were created first that they would then trace the cell over for, I guess, I don't know much about animation, but you'll find those pop up every now and then as well. So, unique piece.
Yep, cool stuff. So now we'll get into collections. These are some images from some of us that have collections and some other people that have some really cool items. The first one we got, these are some things from Pete's collection here. And I think these are all things you have in your collection.
Yeah, these are items I've got. I've got several more pieces, but because I didn't want to be too redundant, I withheld those. But I did want to note the Ledger Weekly there on the left. That's the first item I ever owned from the holiday special. I literally got that out of my local paper in November 1978. The one next to it I discovered years later. I guess it was a sister publication that had the same cover. There's the press kit I'm very proud of. The FET cell and line drawing on the far right, I actually got that from Royal Animation back in 1995. They were selling the Seri cells that you saw earlier, but they also had a lot of originals that they didn't advertise. I like to tell the story that when I went down there to pick up that cell, the guy sent me off to a printer with 20 of the original background paintings. Very trusting guy. He didn't know me from Adam, and he just sent me off, and I got to make 20 copies of the backgrounds. I still have those. I wish I'd swapped one for one of the originals, but I was an honest fellow back then.
I particularly like the image there of 3PO on the newspapers. There's endless variations of those newspapers that you can collect because there's, every city had their own, and you never know what they might have printed in it. And some of them had reviews, some of them had little blurbs about it, some would print different photos from those, like the press kits that they sent out and the press photos. So it's really cool to try and find those old newspapers and magazines that show the TV listings, because you can, get some surprising stuff. In particular, the images that are on this particular TV Weekly, I've never seen these images. I don't think anywhere else. Maybe the Sondan one, but the 3PO one for sure. That's the only place I've ever seen that particular version. This is Gus's collection here.
So yeah, we covered a couple of these categories. So there's the mask from Lumpy's bedroom, and some animation cells. These are production cells, and copied backgrounds. The one of the pieces I really love is this dancer costume. So there was a troupe of acrobats, actually dancer/acrobats in one of the scenes.
We might have some of them here, actually.
Yeah, so outside you probably saw them. And it was what I understood was a family actually that did this routine and would do all these shows, and then they got booked for the holiday special. So they have I have actually 4 of these costumes, and there's like male, female versions, different sizes. And at some point I might just display the 4 of them doing their holiday special routine, but kind of very awesome, flamboyant, really like sticks out when you point it out to people, like that's from Star Wars. And it's like, yeah, holiday special. It's one of the, like, if you remember the video where they're doing the holographic scenes, it's just such a cool costume.
Are you looking for volunteers to wear those costumes and do the whole routine?
We'll take a volunteer.
Guys, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
I would. Yeah.
I'd do it. Let's do it. Let's go.
That would make quite a photo.
We're ready. I don't think I want to see that photo. In the collection of Lisa Stevens and Vic Wirtz, they've got some things that I think all of us envy completely. They have the original 4 prototype figures of Chewbacca's family that were made. So back when the holiday special was still, they thought it might be, come off really well, or it might be, some merchandise tied in with it. They had some plans, ideas for what they would follow it up with. And here you can see the Chewbacca family, which are basically just kind of kit-bashed regular Chewbacca figures that are sort of repainted or had things added to them. And then the Lumpy figure was actually made from one of the Fisher-Price adventure people, and sort of added onto. So obviously Kenner had in mind that they were going to produce action figures for the holiday special, and that was, that's the only physical evidence I know of, I think, that survives.
Yeah, well, there's something to add to that. What's super cool about those is that, so they turned up, it was circa 2000, 2001, and they turned up with a few, actually, take that back. It was a few years earlier, and then they got sold by Tomar Publications had owned them, and they put them up for sale. So I think they were discovered circa 96, 95, something like that, and then around 2000 they put them up for sale, and that's when Lisa and Vic bought them. But at the time, there were several other prototypes that surfaced, and this happens commonly with Kenner prototypes. That one of the Kenner employees will just mess around with a figure, and they'll make it out of an existing figure, a Kenner one or another one, like in the case of Lumpy here. And all we had as evidence of this was that one Kenner employee had said, "Oh, I made these," and then they came to market, and they got sold, and they're one of a kind. Well, years later, Pete had asked me to work on a feature on StarWars.com where they had some old photos that Lucasfilm had, and a bunch. Not only did the prototypes, these exact pieces, show up in that photography, a lot of the other prototypes that surfaced at the same time from the same employee were also in those photos. So it was kind of awesome because it was this proof that we could actually now prove they're original and match them to those photos.
I wish I'd remembered that. I would have actually given those to the slideshow so you could see. I totally forgot about that.
Maybe next time. Yeah. So also in this photo you see, I guess, early drawings or sketches of Boba Fett with a creature that, the cartoon creature that he rides on, and what they call in here a mind harness, which I guess is how he controls the creature. Not exactly faithful to the cartoon, but very interesting. It sounds like they were going to take another direction on this, or maybe this was an early version of what was going to be in the cartoon. And as far as we know, this never happened. I don't think there was any physical construction. I don't think there's any
physical form example that has ever surfaced.
Yep. But Vic and Lisa have these two drawings as evidence that there was plans, at least at one point, to go forward with a Boba Fett Sea Serpent toy. This was taken a few years ago, but this was my collection here being displayed. Actually, I'll let you in on a secret. This was in a tiny little room that was behind a hidden bookshelf, and I would show it to select people. And say, yeah, I'm kind of a closet holiday special collector, and
Literally.
And then show them the literal closet that my holiday special collection was in. But I've since moved to another place, and I don't have that room anymore, so I'll have to come up with something equally good to display it again at some point. Scott Horn, actually, he's got some amazing stuff on display, so much that we had to put it in 2 slides rather than 1, and some really great cases that he's showing it in. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that one.
I partly blame this guy right here. 12 years ago, I'm sure many of you are on the Rebel Scum forums, and I was flipping through the Focus collectors, and I was like, man, I really want to do a Focus, and I toyed with Fett. Who hasn't collected Fett? But there's so much stuff with him, and I thought, all right, well, if we're going to do this, let's go with something just really off the wall weird. And I looked over, and there was my Starlog number 19 from February '79 with the holiday special cover, and I thought, oh, that's weird. And I owned a copy, and so I sat down and watched it, and I thought that'd be pretty cool to to collect that. And went on the internet and started doing a little research, found StarWarsHolidaySpecial.com, and Scott had a just really well-organized list of stuff that was known to exist. And I thought, okay, this isn't bad. There's not that much stuff. And I mean, it might be a challenge, but there can't be that much stuff about this. And now that you've sat through this whole panel, you realize, boy, was I wrong. 12 years later, I can tell you now, one of the things, I mean, gosh, we've been working on this presentation month and a half, 2 months. There's a lot of stuff we haven't shown you. We literally don't have the time.
We actually had to trim things from this
Yeah.
panel. There were things we just couldn't even
You
get
can go
to.
ahead and click that. Yeah. When you start factoring in, as he mentioned, the sheer number of TV guides that were printed over the entire continental United States alone, there are so many different variations, varieties about, I mean, they were excited, and this was about the only exciting thing going on TV that week. Take that for whatever it is. Yeah. I mean, this was it, and so it made it on the cover of some things, and others it didn't. Some had huge blurbs. Some had just a tiny little speck of a mention. And that's one of my favorite areas, is to go and find. I mean, the adrenaline rush when I find one of these TV guides from somewhere else, or somebody contacts me and says, "Hey, man, I got one. Have you seen this?" I'm like, "No," and it's just it's fantastic. But there is just a shockingly large amount of stuff out there, not just with the modern, but even with just the promotional items, and it has been a fun 12 years, and I'm out of the four of us, I'm relatively new into the game, but tracking it down, and it's truly feast or famine.
You're just a beginner. You're a newbie. I mean,
Yeah,
look
I'm
at
just-
this.
I'm
You've
total
got
noob
you got
on
a long
this.
ways to
Yeah,
go here.
I'm working on it. It's that darn that whole press kit, man. That's got me stymied. But it's feast or famine. I was just commenting to my wife the other day. I went on about an 8 month streak. Didn't find anything, didn't see anything, and then the past month and a half, I think I've accumulated 4 or 5 things that have just popped up. And then, of course, we were all chatting about this, and they released the image of the lunchbox, and I was the first one that found it. I'm like, oh my gosh, guys, look!
That was an exciting moment.
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine the whole feed on social media. We're like, ah.
So you tell your wife that you're a holiday special collector?
I am loud and proud. I've got a couple of
Great.
friends in the audience. I will admit 100%, and I am mocked and jeered like crazy.
As well you should be.
Yes, but just let you know, you people volunteered to come into this room today, so you're just as sick as the rest of us.
Well, it's
yeah.
interesting on that point that I do think that the holiday special has had an evolution where, as fans started to get back into Star Wars in the 90s, people made a lot of fun of it, and it grew on many of us. Like, I know I used to, with our local collecting club, I used to actually do a bet with people that had not seen the holiday special since '78. Say, I'll give you one vintage action figure if you can sit through the whole holiday special without stopping it. And it was hard. Like, some of them were like, oh my God, I can't do this. But now we got a whole bunch of people that are just huge fans, watch it routinely and are into it and love it. So it's interesting how it's evolved in fandom.
Well, no, I think if you sit down and, number one, look at it from the perspective that it was created. It was a late 60s, 70s variety show. No, Star Wars does not really fit that format, but if you treat it like a comedy, it's not that bad. And I'm just, at this point, it started out as just a focus that I thought would be fun, but now it's really turned into more of, we need to preserve this stuff. I mean, this, like it or not, it's a part of Star Wars history. And to be able to grab a hold of these deteriorating TV guides, I mean, something that 90% of the population just throws away, and the fact that these have survived 40 years is just absolutely incredible. And so, yeah, it's a sickness.
One of the things that I've tried to talk about at panels before is the sort of the positive aspects of the holiday special, because we all know the negative aspects. There's no need to go into that, but it really, like I said before, it was the first sequel to Star Wars, really the first continuation of the story that we saw on screen. It's also the only other place where you get to see the the original characters, Luke, Han, Leia, etc., in their original outfits that they wore in the first movie, which is really cool. It's in the cantina scene, you get to see great close-ups of aliens that you don't really get a very good look at in the movie. You get B. Arthur. But you know, there's some great things in there. Of course, the cartoon. You know, most people really like the cartoon, and the cartoon is in fact the only piece of it that has been officially released by Lucasfilm on the Blu-ray set, and we're happy for that. We're glad that did finally happen. Maybe someday, who knows? They might see fit to release the whole thing, but. I'm not going to hold my breath.
I'm hoping they'll do a sequel to Solo and basically do the plot from the holiday special for that.
There we go.
I'm thinking it'd work.
So I think we're doing pretty good for time here, actually.
We've got about 10 minutes.
We started
can
early.
take some, if you want to take, what we'll do is we'll take some questions here, and then, and this is true for all the panels. After the panels, we have the social room down the hall, and we're going to have the panelists available, and usually in smaller groups, to field questions too. So even after the panel, if you have other questions, we can start taking questions.
Yeah. Scott Horn?
Scott.
Scott.
It is. Yes. I did not procure it myself. I got it through another collector, and yes, it's a beautiful piece. I won't lie. I was very happy to get it. I actually have the autograph from the entire family, the family troupe that did the circus portion, and so, yeah.
It's pretty cool. A lot of those weren't even known until recently, the names that were associated with some of those actors. Because you get a list of credits at the end, but it's not complete, and it also doesn't exactly put a name to a face, so it's hard to say who was who.
And that's Scott, and then there's several other hardcore collectors who have spent many years tracking these folks down, working the system, contacting them, and politely asking them, hey,
stalking them.
So, yeah. Trying to get interviews
really.
with them, just saying, hey, can I get some autographs? And they've been met with some, yeah, I'd be more than happy, and then others, they don't want anything to do with it.
I wanted to mention, this is something I had to cut from the panel because I didn't think we would be able to get to it, but I really wanted to mention the custom things that people have done. There's a lot of people have done custom Star Wars Holiday Special items, made their own figures, made their own toys, whatever. And there's also a lot of people that have done Star Wars Holiday Special cosplay, and I wanted to give them a mention as well. We've got a Too Much Makeup Luke over here, Richard over here. We've got Philip here, also as Luke. We've had Philip in the past has done the ringleader, which was just awesome. I think that might have been right after the costume surfaced, and we actually had some real images, like clear images of what the costume really looked like. Somewhere out there, we've got a troupe of acrobats and so forth that I think are here. And it's just awesome to see people cosplaying Star Wars Holiday Special stuff. I remember the first time I saw it, someone do it, and I think it was probably a cartoon Boba Fett. But then I started seeing more and more, and every year we get more costumers. There's a Star Wars Holiday Special costuming group meetup tomorrow, I believe at 4 o'clock. And it's supposed to be outside of the Tom Spina Regal Robot booth. So if any of you want to go down there for pictures or meet some of those people, or if you have a costume of your own, that would be a great place to show up and check it out. Let's see, more questions? Right here.
You mentioned there was a story about the red and blue Snaggletooth figures.
Repeat the question.
Okay, yeah, there's so the story behind the red and blue snaggletooth figures.
Repeat the question so the whole audience.
Yes. So the question was that earlier we mentioned there was a story behind the red and the blue snaggletooth figures, and we weren't going to go into them, but it looks like we've got some time to actually do that. Let's see, Gus, you probably got some input on that.
Context. I mean, I know that the belt buckle came from. I probably don't have the story exactly right, but it was like one of the folks that was working on just designing the action. It was out of Kenner
Right.
that the belt buckle design came from, and I recall it was like some design on the guy's
business card, yeah.
Yeah, that was, and so it was not. I don't think on screen there's ever a belt buckle anything close to that, but it was something that got carried forward into red and blue snaggletooth.
Tom Spina has delved into this quite a bit as well for his panels. But I was looking into it beforehand here, and I think the timeline goes something like this. So Kenner initially received a black and white cropped photo of Snaggletooth from the original Star Wars. They were supposed to make a figure based off that, but it didn't contain all the information they needed. So what we wound up with was this tall, he wasn't supposed to be tall either.
It was a Sears, so there's a Sears set called Cantina Adventure Set. And so before they had announced the second wave of action figures for Kenner, Sears had gotten lucky and got this deal to do an exclusive cardboard play set and 4 Cantina characters. And so in that set, they showed a blue version of the Snaggletooth. So this was before they really announced the extension of the action figure line. Shortly after that, though, they said, okay, we're going to add 8 action figures now to the line, and Snaggletooth and the other 3 Cantina characters were going to get added, but that's at the point where they updated it with the red Snaggletooth.
Yeah, so when the blue Snaggletooth came out, he was tall, he had a blue instead of red outfit, he had these big, tall, silver disco Kiss boots, and it was a really funny looking figure. This was before the holiday special came out. And I'm guessing it was like maybe mid 1978.
Yeah, it was advertised, I think, for holiday season 78.
You could order it through the Sears catalog.
By summer, it was like in the Sears catalog. So
right.
It was pre-holiday special.
So there was that, and then down the road they start making the Star Wars holiday special, and they have to shoot the cantina scene. So they've obviously come up with costumes for it, and somewhere in there they basically copied the design for the Snaggletooth figure. Now, I think that I know that the Sears playset at some point they replaced the blue figure with the red figure.
That's right.
So there's
some people got it with the red figure.
Those are probably later versions of it.
Yep.
So it's not clear whether the Sears playset came out with the updated red figure first, or if the holiday special made their costume version of it first, and then the figure got replaced. But at some point, the holiday special modeled their Snaggletooth off of the action figure, and complete with the belt buckle, and so that showed up on screen. And then later in 1979, the action figure, the red version of Snaggletooth, came out on a card for the first time. And on that card, they used a photo from the Star Wars holiday special to show it. So it sort of went in this weird circle. And came back to the holiday special.
And even as a kid, I remember, I had gotten the blue Snaggletooth from Sears, because I was like, any new Star Wars thing, I was getting it at the time. And then the red one came out, I was like, oh, that's different, I got to get that variation. So even some kids picked up both versions of it in the
early
day.
variation on figures.
So we probably have time for one more. We'll probably take one more
yeah,
question.
let's take another question here. Maybe somebody in the back. How about back here? That's correct. Okay, so the question there was, some of you may know, Luke Skywalker in the holiday special had a completely different lightsaber hanging on his belt. It's obviously not the one that they used in the films. And it was actually based off of a different Graflex unit. It was a unit called a Graflite, and you'll see it also pop up in the X-Wing cockpit. There's one mounted on the instrument panel there.
Which you can acquire on eBay way cheaper than the other one.
So far, yep. But yeah, so there's I've never been able to get a satisfactory explanation as to why they had to go with that different model lightsaber. Whether the original was not available, or whether they just mixed it up and didn't know about it, or what happened. But somehow that alternate lightsaber wound up on Luke's belt. Of course, it never got really used in the holiday special, but it was
in
there.
the early years, also, a lot of the props and costumes weren't, classified, accounted for, and kept together in the same way. I mean, they rented from, things from other shops. They had things in different locations, so they weren't as organized about that kind of thing. I am not aware of that lightsaber being in a private collection. I've not heard of it come up. Wouldn't rule it out. It could be, but it could be somebody who worked on the film still has it. But I've not heard of it surfacing.
It's also possible, actually, that it was left in London, because at that point during the holiday special production, they knew they were going to be making Empire Strikes Back, and a lot of the props were left in London.
Yeah, it could be
at the
maybe
time.
they
And-
forgot to bring it along.
Exactly, and they thought, we don't need to, bring that back. Let's just make a new one.
And it was also mentioned here that it showed up in Empire Strikes Back, and it actually did. And I saw, for the first time recently, I saw a still photo of basically an insert shot from Empire Strikes Back. It's the one where Luke is hanging from the AT-AT belly. And it obviously doesn't show his face there because it's a totally different stand-in actor in this still photo. But that stand-in actor, it has the X-wing pilot outfit on, or snowspeeder outfit, and has the holiday special lightsaber hanging prominently on his belt, which was very interesting. I don't think the rest of the shots had that.
That actually makes sense, because that insert shot was an ILMer, and it was shot here in this
Right.
country, and because they needed a lightsaber prop, they just went to the archives and grabbed the holiday special version.
There we
So,
go.
there you go.
So it survived as long as Empire Strikes Back, the shooting of Empire Strikes Back, and then after that, I guess we don't really know what happened to it.
It also pops up in a couple of publications. There's a children's book with Luke in his white New Hope outfit, and in one of his classic stances, and he's holding that saber. And
That's right.
Also, the special edition trilogy pinball machine, the artwork back glass on it has Luke holding that particular saber.
Well, I told you all that we would not want to stop asking questions. I have to cut who knew that this was going to be this one lightsaber? Another 45 minutes lightsaber talk at least. Go to the Q&A room. It's going to be awesome. Thank them there.
All right,
thank
you guys
them
for
now.
coming. Thank you.
Can I get a happy Life Day? Happy Life Day! All right. Excellent. Hey guys.